Hello! In part one, we're going to take a brief look at ethics, morality, and the differences between the two. And then we're going to take a look at the history of game theory. Enjoy.
Ethics. 1. The moral principles governing or influencing conduct. 2. The branch of knowledge concerned with moral principles. The word moral or morality is defined as 1. Concerned with the principles of right and wrong behaviour and the goodness or badness of human character. 2. Conforming to accepted standards of behaviour. 3. Psychological rather than physical practice, i.e. moral support. 4. A lesson about right or wrong that can be derived from a story or experience, i.e. a moral of a tale. Or morals, which is where we're at, which is a standard of behaviour or principles of right and wrong. In my opinion, the difference between morals and ethics can be seen as quite arbitrary, especially with all the vagueness and exercise in semantics. So to muddy the waters, or clear the fog, depending on your perspective, I'll add my own 2 pence in. Morals define personal character, while ethics stress a social system in which those morals are applied. To be honest, I was actually cheating with that definition. I've got it from wisegeek.com. I did try and think of a clearer way to describe this, but this ticks all the boxes. So what the? The reason why it's important to know the difference is very important in my opinion, especially when dealing with people who misuse terms and have such a fixed code of ethics. Supers, a term used by Brights, always use the most definitive example to prove their point. For example, why is it wrong for Hitler to kill the Jews if there's no moral code handed down by a tooth fairy? Well, no one is arguing that this wasn't a heinous act of genocide on the part of the Nazis, but they seem to be unwilling to tackle the other side of the discussion. In a world with fixed, unchanging codes, would it be morally wrong to steal plans from a terrorist who wanted to blow up a nuclear power station? And would it be wrong to shoot that very same terrorist if you're in a situation when that is the only act that will stop him from blowing up said power station? I want to tackle these issues, but I'll do that later on in the series. I just wanted to highlight the problems that a simplistic set of, let's say, commandments throw up for you and me. Now, most people would expect me to start off in, say, ancient Greece around 469 to 399 BC, but I'm not. Well, not for now. I'm actually heading to 1928, starting with John von Neumann and the birth of the min-max theorem. Now, John, or Janos von Neumann, was born in Budapest in 1903. He was a brilliant scientist whose influence in the fields of science cannot be underestimated. He contributed greatly to quantum mechanics, continuous geometry, economics to name but a few, and his work in set theory is still used today. This guy was able to crack jokes in Greek at the age of 6. In my opinion, and many others, he was the father of game theory as we know it. Well, the history of game theory can be traced all the way back to 1713, where the first mention of game theory was proposed by a British ambassador called James Waldegrave. He proposed a min-max type of strategy, but not on the same level as von Neumann. Game theory wasn't actually pursued again until 1838, when along came the Carnot equilibrium, named after French economist Antoine Augustin Carnot. But even with all these developments, we had to wait until 1944 for the groundbreaking book Theory of Games and Economic Behavior, published by mathematician John von Neumann and economist Oscar Morgenstern, for game theory to finally blossom. And very soon afterwards, around 1950, came the Nash equilibrium, proposed by John Forbes Nash, who was made famous via the film A Beautiful Mind. Get to the point, I hear you say. What's all this got to do with morality? Well, it's crucial to understand game theory, where it came from, and the role it played in our modern world. A lot of the Cold War and the conflicts and decisions were defined by game theory, but we're only going to look at a really small portion, the early blossoming of game theory, a true look, and how we then started to gain an understanding of how the early moral systems developed, not just on us, but across the board. The main purpose of game theory is to consider situations or games where instead of agents, players, making decisions as reactions to dead variables, like nothing happening, a flat situation, their decisions are strategic reactions to other agents or players' actions, live variables. When a player is faced with a set of moves that he can play, he will form a strategy, a best response to his environment by which he'll play by. These strategies can either be pure, play a particular move in a particular set, or mixed, random play. Now, the beautiful thing about game theory is that it uses numbers. It's mathematics. So essentially, you can get pure truths out of it. You can get 1 + 1 = 2, and then formulate that to a reactionary choice. Now, that sounds really calculating. Like, it's not in the same way. It basically can predict the best outcomes when you add weights of numbers to certain situations. And this momentous journey of history leads us right to the point where we wanted to be, and that is the prisoner's dilemma, which in the telling of that tale, hopefully will make everything clearer. But that's all we've got time for at the moment. We'll have to actually start and pick it up in part 2. Thank you for listening to this, and we'll catch you in the second part.